Okay, so you know how it is, right? You're just slammed with information all the time.
Yeah.
Articles, reports, opinions, your feed is just flooded. But keeping up with it all, that's not really the challenge, is it? It's figuring out what actually matters,
Right.
what you can actually do something with, right? Like, what are the steps? And then why? Why does any of it matter?
Exactly. It's like drowning in data but starving for real insight.
Totally. And that's what this whole deep dive is for.
Yeah.
It's a way to explore this stuff just for you.
Right.
We're looking at some really interesting recordings from March 2025. You shared these YouTube transcripts with all these leadership and business experts.
Hmm.
Our mission, like always, is to find the good stuff, the stories, the best practices, the things you can actually put into action right away.
Absolutely.
So, where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, the first thing that jumps out from these sources is how much the idea of strategic leadership has changed, even in just the last year.
Oh, interesting.
It's 2025 now, and they're talking about this widening gap between two kinds of leaders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're seeing this split between people who can think strategically and those who are stuck in just reacting to whatever comes up.
Yeah, I can see that. And with all the data we have now and AI becoming so important, that gap is just going to get bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. And it's not about just keeping up anymore. It's about offering something unique, something technology can't just replicate.
Mm-hmm. And what I find interesting is that they're not saying strategic thinking is just for the executives at the top, the C-suite.
Right.
They're saying it's relevant for everyone in a management role.
Yeah.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, understanding the long-term consequences of what you're doing, and being proactive about solving problems within your area.
It's about taking ownership, really.
Mhm.
And it all starts with, and this might sound obvious, but really understanding the goals of the organization.
Oh, okay.
Knowing what the company is actually trying to achieve.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's where a lot of people get tripped up, according to these experts. They're saying there's often a real lack of clarity on what the organization's goals actually are.
Huh. You'd think that would be clear, right?
You'd think so, but they might be communicated in a really vague way or mentioned once and then forgotten, or different teams might interpret them in completely different ways.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen. So much gets lost in translation sometimes. So what can you do about it, right? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, it's about taking initiative. Don't wait for someone to spell it out for you. You need to really understand what your organization is all about, their big vision, their long-term objectives. Talk to the senior leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them what their vision is,
Yeah.
what the challenges are, what keeps them up at night.
Right.
And it's not just about talking to the people at the top. Building connections across different departments is super important too.
Oh, okay.
That gives you a much broader view of how the whole organization works, how all the pieces fit together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No matter what your role is, having that understanding is essential because strategic thinking is really about making sure your efforts are aligned with the bigger picture.
Right. So you're all rowing in the same direction.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got all this data in 2025, right? Right. I mean, it's everywhere. But our experts are saying, be careful about relying on data too much.
Yeah. They're really emphasizing that you can't just live in spreadsheets and dashboards.
Right.
You have to understand how things work in the real world, what the challenges are on the ground.
The nitty-gritty.
Exactly. And that's where your team comes in.
Oh, okay. So talk to the people who are actually doing the work.
Exactly. They have the best insights into what's working and what's not, what's smooth, what's causing friction,
Right.
what processes are just outdated and need to be updated. Pay attention to those workarounds people have come up with.
Mm-hmm. Those little hacks.
Yeah, those hacks often point to bigger problems that need to be addressed. See if there are any gaps in training, areas where your team isn't getting the support they need.
Yeah.
And here's a really interesting idea. Become a customer of your own company.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Right. If you have a customer support line, call it.
Mm-hmm.
Go through your own website. Try out the chatbot.
Yeah.
Really experience it.
From the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See if your customer service strategy actually aligns with what your customers are experiencing.
I like that. It's like going undercover in your own company.
It is. And this all ties into this idea of constantly asking questions,
Right.
digging deeper, trying to connect the dots and understand the root cause of problems. And that's where this technique called the 5 whys comes in.
The 5 whys. Okay, tell me more.
It's a problem-solving tool, deceptively simple, but incredibly powerful.
Okay.
You start with a clearly defined problem,
Okay.
and you just keep asking why.
Just why? Why?
Exactly. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
You write down the answer, and then you ask why, again, about that answer. And you keep going, usually about 5 times, or until you get to the core reason behind the problem.
So you're peeling back the layers.
Exactly.
Like an onion.
Yes. And what's amazing is that when you do this with a bunch of different problems in an organization, you often see these surprising connections.
Oh, interesting.
You realize that problems that seem totally unrelated actually have shared root causes.
Oh, wow.
One of the experts gave a great example about a van sales operation.
Okay.
It started with a simple request for new vans. But when they used the 5 whys, they uncovered all these deeper issues. Vehicle maintenance was a mess, the logistics were inefficient, and employee morale was low.
Wow.
All connected to these old vans.
So what seemed like a simple problem.
It was just a symptom of much bigger issues.
Wow. That's a great example.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how we communicate problems, how we frame them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've probably been in those meetings with outside consultants where they come in and explain a strategic challenge so clearly, and you're thinking, we already knew this. But they've taken all this information, often gathered from people inside the company, and presented it back in a way that makes sense as a story.
They've connected the dots.
Exactly. And I think the challenge for those of us working inside a company is that we're so close to it all.
Right.
It's hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes.
It's true. You can get so caught up in the day-to-day.
Or maybe we feel limited in how we can communicate these issues.
Especially in companies with those really rigid structures.
Exactly. But this ability to frame problems clearly and tell that story, whether it's in a casual conversation or a formal presentation.
And adding that nuance that comes from your own experience.
Right, that's what sets a true strategic thinker apart.
Absolutely.
And all of the strategic thinking, it takes time, right? Dedicated time, which can feel like a luxury these days.
It's true.
One expert was really adamant about the danger of only doing planning and strategic thinking when you absolutely have to, on an as-needed basis.
You have to be proactive. Make time for it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
So make it a regular thing.
Yeah.
Block out time in your calendar, a non-negotiable appointment for strategic planning.
Treat it like any other important meeting.
Exactly. And make sure this planning time is aligned with your organization's big goals.
Right. And also with your own professional development goal.
Oh, good point. It should benefit you too.
Absolutely.
Right.
And once you have that time blocked out, create a plan. Be transparent about your strategic priorities. Break those big goals down into smaller, manageable chunks, maybe using quarterly planning cycles.
Okay, that's helpful advice. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about visibility, specifically building visibility with senior leadership.
Okay.
Our experts say it's super important for your career growth, especially in 2025. But it's not just about being seen, it's about being strategic.
It's about making sure your contributions are noticed by the people who matter.
Exactly. And for some people, that can feel a little uncomfortable, like, oh, I don't want to brag or I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But the experts are saying it's essential for your career. It can open doors to bigger projects, help you build relationships with key decision makers, and build your reputation beyond your immediate team.
And the first step is making sure your visibility efforts are aligned with what your organization actually values.
Oh.
What are their priorities?
Yeah.
What are their core values? What really matters to them?
And how do you figure that out?
Well, you can start with the company website, the mission statement, but pay attention to what they talk about in meetings, announcements, internal memos.
Yeah, the things they keep coming back to.
Exactly. And even in casual conversations with senior leaders, what are they excited about?
What are they worried about?
Exactly. Once you understand those core values, look for opportunities to get involved in projects that really support them.
Okay, that makes sense. So once you're working on the right things, how do you make sure people notice?
Well, another common obstacle is that people tend to undervalue their own work.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They assume their contributions are small or that everyone already knows what they're doing.
Right, they'll notice me eventually.
But the reality is, people in leadership positions, especially senior leaders, they're really busy.
Yeah, they've got a lot on their plates.
They don't always see the day-to-day details of what everyone is doing. So you have to be proactive about communicating your value.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Well, talk about your projects more in meetings.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to share your accomplishments.
Hmm.
Offer your help to colleagues who are struggling.
Right. Be a team player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you present your work, explain your thought process. How did you solve that problem?
So people understand not just what you did, but how you did it.
Exactly. And this ties into the idea of adding value to decision makers and senior leaders directly.
Okay, becoming indispensable.
Right. Think of yourself as a resource they can rely on. And to do that, you need to know what skills and knowledge they value the most.
Okay, so how do you figure that out?
Don't be afraid to ask them directly.
Just go up to a senior leader and say, hey, what skills do you value?
Exactly. What do you look for in your top performers?
Mm.
Or observe the people who work closely with them. What skills and attributes do those people have?
Okay, so figure out what they're looking for and then develop those skills.
Exactly. Another important piece is learning how to collaborate effectively with leaders.
Okay. So not being intimidated by them,
Right.
but also not trying to take over.
Exactly. It's a balancing act.
Okay, so how do you strike that balance?
Well, when you're working with a senior leader, take the time to really understand their goals.
Mm-hmm.
What are they trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And then think about the specific value you can bring.
How can you help them achieve their goals?
Exactly. Offer suggestions. Ask for their feedback. And then execute diligently.
Okay, so be proactive and helpful, but also be respectful of their time and their expertise.
Exactly. Our sources also talk about the importance of connecting with internal influencers.
Oh, okay. So people who are already well connected within the company.
Right. People who are already visible and have strong relationships with senior leaders. Okay. Build relationships with these people.
Yeah.
Show interest in their work. Congratulate them on their successes. Ask for their advice.
Become their friend.
Well, not necessarily their friend, but build a professional relationship.
Okay, I got it.
Once you've made that connection, look for opportunities to work on their projects.
Okay, so get on their radar.
Exactly. And as they see your work firsthand, they might start advocating for you to senior leaders.
So it's kind of like building your reputation from the inside out.
Exactly. And finally, there's this idea of micro moments, which one of the experts talked about.
Micro moments. Okay, what's that?
These are those brief opportunities you have to communicate your achievements concisely.
Oh, okay.
So in meetings, elevator conversations, job interviews, even just quick chats in the hallway.
Okay, so be prepared to talk about your accomplishments briefly and clearly.
Exactly.
Like an elevator pitch.
Yes. You need to be able to articulate the impact you've made quickly and effectively.
Okay, so it's about being ready to share your story when those opportunities arise.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a little bit,
Okay.
let's talk about some of the common mistakes leaders make, especially in 2025.
The pitfalls to avoid.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources highlight some things to watch out for, but also, importantly, how to avoid them.
Okay, that's helpful.
So one of the big mistakes is misunderstanding the role of AI.
Okay, so not treating it like a magic bullet.
Right. It's a powerful tool, but it's not a replacement for human expertise.
Okay.
The best leaders are the ones who figure out how to integrate AI with human judgment, not just replace one with the other.
Create a partnership.
Exactly. Another mistake is mishandling the changes that are happening in the workplace, especially with AI and automation.
Okay, so not being sensitive to how these changes are affecting people.
Right. Companies that rush into these technologies without preparing their workforce, they end up creating a lot of fear and anxiety.
Yeah, people worry about losing their jobs.
Exactly. Smart leaders take a people-first approach. They invest in retraining, upskilling, and they clearly define new career paths for their employees.
So help people adapt to the new reality.
Exactly. Another big mistake is neglecting data leadership.
Okay, so even though everyone's talking about data, they're not really treating it strategically.
Right. It's still seen as an IT issue for a lot of companies. But in 2025 and beyond, data is a strategic asset.
You need a plan for it.
Absolutely.
All right.
And that plan has to be company-wide, not just something the IT department handles.
Okay, what else?
Underestimating the importance of sustainability.
Oh, okay, so not just treating it like a PR stunt.
Right. Sustainability is becoming essential for business survival, not just for looking good.
It's a core part of the business.
Exactly. And another mistake is clinging to old, rigid organizational structures.
Okay, so the traditional hierarchies.
Right. Those aren't working as well anymore.
Yeah, things change so fast now.
Exactly. The companies that will thrive are the ones that are more fluid, more adaptable.
They can respond quickly to new challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. And then there's misreading customer expectations.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, over-automating everything while also ignoring people's concerns about data privacy.
Right. Nobody wants to talk to a robot all the time, and they want to know their data is safe.
Exactly. The key is to find the right balance between digital efficiency and human connection,
Okay.
and always respect customer privacy.
Okay, so don't forget the human element.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And finally, ignoring geopolitical risks.
Okay.
The world is a complex place, and businesses can't just pretend that international events don't affect them.
Right. Things are so interconnected now.
Exactly. Every company, no matter how big or small, needs to have a plan for managing these risks.
Because they can have a huge impact on the business.
Absolutely. But the good news is, all of these mistakes, they're preventable
Okay, so how do you avoid them?
with proactive planning, being willing to adapt, and constantly learning.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about some of the pitfalls. Now let's focus on what makes a great leader. What are the essential qualities?
Okay.
One of the most interesting points that came out of these sources is that leadership isn't really about your title or your authority.
Right. It's not about being the boss.
Exactly. It's a choice. It's about choosing to care for the people around you.
Okay.
It's about helping them grow and achieve their potential.
That's the idea behind servant leadership.
Exactly. And of course, financial goals are important, but truly great leaders, they understand that their main focus should be on their team.
On serving their ambitions.
Exactly. Helping them achieve their goal.
It's about empowering people.
Mm-hmm. And another important quality is continuous learning.
Oh, yeah. No one has it all figured out. There's always more to learn.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. And even the most experienced leaders, they're constantly looking for knowledge, new perspectives, new ways of doing things.
They never stop learning.
Right. And one quality that often gets overlooked is courage.
Oh, interesting.
Everyone talks about vision and charisma, but courage is essential too. It's the courage to stick to your vision, even when things get tough, to resist short-term pressures and focus on the long term, to take risks on people, to speak truth to power, to do the right thing, even when it's hard.
Oh, that's powerful.
It is. And it brings us to this challenge. Choose to be the kind of leader you would have wanted to work for.
That's a great challenge. Now, our deep dive also led us to the insights of Horst Schulze, the co-founder of Ritz-Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
He has this incredible philosophy of excellence, and he really emphasizes the importance of constantly questioning your vision,
Okay.
both as an individual and as an organization.
So asking yourself, is this really working?
Right. And not just for you, but for everyone involved. Investors, guests, employees, society as a whole.
Your vision should benefit everyone.
Exactly. If it only benefits a few people, it's not going to last.
Right. He talked about the founding of Ritz-Carlton and how they chose that name.
Oh, interesting.
Apparently, they wanted to acquire a hotel that already had a well-known name.
Oh, to get instant brand recognition.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But it didn't work out that way.
So they went with Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah. And he also talked about his early life, how his parents instilled a strong work ethic in him.
Okay.
And he had this really formative experience with a hotel manager who taught him the importance of creating excellence.
In everything you do.
Yes, even the smallest tasks.
Okay.
That's where his commitment to high intent comes from.
Interesting.
And he makes this important distinction between vision and mission.
Okay.
He says true visions are broader. They benefit everyone,
Mm-hmm.
while mission statements are more focused on the organization's own goals.
Okay.
The Ritz-Carlton vision is to be known as the finest hotel company in the world.
Ambitious.
Yeah. But he says it's a vision that benefits everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Investors, guests, employees, the whole industry.
Because it raises the bar for everyone.
Exactly.
And once you have that vision, he says you can't compromise on it.
Right. Because if you compromise on a vision that's designed to benefit everyone, you're betraying the people it's meant to serve.
That's a strong statement.
It is.
And he talked about why so many leaders lose sight of excellence.
Hmm.
He pointed to this obsession with short-term profits.
Right. The pressure from Wall Street.
And this lack of focus on customers and employees.
Yeah.
He said you need to build a workforce of people who actually want to be there,
Right.
who feel a sense of purpose and belonging.
He even quoted Aristotle on that.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, about how people need to feel connected to their work.
Mm.
And he talked about the difference between management and leadership.
Okay.
He said management is about processes and controls, but leadership is about creating an environment where employees are motivated to go above and beyond for the customer.
Okay. So how did they put this philosophy into practice at Ritz-Carlton?
Well, they started with a very selective hiring process.
Okay.
They looked for people with the right skills, but also the right attitude.
Mm,
People who were empathetic, welcoming,
okay.
and their first day of orientation was really important.
Oh,
It wasn't about rules and paperwork.
okay.
It was about communicating the company's vision and the value proposition for the employee.
So they felt like they were part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that's why they had such low employee turnover.
People wanted to stay.
Yeah. And he also talked about the power of first impressions.
Okay.
He called it the 10-foot rule.
The 10-foot rule.
Yeah, every employee had to make eye contact, smile, and greet any guest who came within 10 feet of him.
Wow.
It sounds simple, but it had a huge impact on customer satisfaction.
People felt welcomed and cared for.
Exactly.
And he also stressed the importance of handling complaints with empathy, focusing on resolving the guest's frustration.
And understanding their expectations.
Okay.
He said customers expect a defect-free product, they expect timeliness, and they expect to be treated with respect and care.
Mm-hmm.
And of those three, he said care is the most important.
It makes the biggest impression.
Exactly. He also talked about the importance of individualized service.
Oh, okay. So tailoring the experience to each guest.
Right. That's why he started Capella Hotels,
Yeah.
which are smaller and more intimate, so they can offer a more personalized experience.
Okay, so focus on quality over quantity.
Yeah. And he said he prioritizes service and product quality over loyalty programs.
Interesting.
He believes the experience itself should be enough to bring people back.
Okay.
And while it's important to recognize frequent guests,
Yeah.
he said you have to treat everyone with respect.
Okay, that's fair.
He also talked about his personal values: hard work, education, and treating everyone with respect.
Mm-hmm.
And he told a story about a time when he got into a fight and was arrested.
Oh, wow.
It was a turning point for him. He realized that your destiny is determined by the decisions you make.
Powerful.
And he emphasized the danger of justifying bad decisions instead of learning from them.
So own your mistakes?
Right. And always act with high intent, both in your personal life and your work.
Okay.
He also talked about the importance of emotional intelligence, being able to manage your anger, stay calm under pressure,
Okay.
and being proactive, making decisions instead of letting circumstances control you.
So take charge of your life.
Right. And he reminded us that all businesses are about people and relationships.
It's all about people.
Exactly. And he addressed the issue of employee loyalty during tough times, like when a company has to lay people off.
Mm-hmm.
He said it's important to be honest and transparent and to create a positive work environment even during challenging times.
Because that's how you build trust.
Yeah. He talked about the impact his mentors had on him,
Yep.
especially his early mentor, Carl, who instilled in him this commitment to excellence.
Mm.
And he shared a story about a time when he was passed over for a promotion.
Oh, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah. But he learned a valuable lesson from that experience. He realized the importance of consistently embodying those values of excellence.
Not just when it's convenient.
Exactly. And he emphasized the importance of learning from setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
He said something happens for you, not to you. So look for the lesson in every challenge.
I like that.
And finally, he mentioned the last book he reread,
Okay.
Bonhoeffer by Eric Metaxas.
Okay.
It's about people who think differently, who have strong convictions, even when they face opposition.
Mm.
He admires people who live with integrity.
So their beliefs, their words, and their actions are all aligned.
Exactly.
Wow, that's inspiring.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's amazing to see how these themes are all connected.
Right.
The shift towards strategic thinking, the importance of visibility,
Mm.
avoiding common leadership mistakes,
Right.
the importance of serving others,
Mm-hmm.
having the courage to lead, and that relentless pursuit of excellence.
And we've talked about a lot of practical steps you can take.
Right.
Like actively seeking out information, engaging with your team, scheduling dedicated time for planning, working on your visibility.
These aren't just theories. There are things you can do right now.
Host.